Well, that's great. Hello, just a minute. Today I just want to discuss a little about the American politics, the ongoing campaigns going on. United States between a sort of political battle, you can say, between Donald Trump and the representative of the status quo, Madam Hillary Clinton. I've been following this American elections, this campaign for the last 1 year. I've been watching all the elections, in the caucuses and then the conventions, the Republican convention, the Democratic convention, and also I came across a lot of blunders made by Mr. Trump during this campaign, and also a very calculated and engineered campaign run by the Democratic side, which is quite understandable because the people on the Democratic side, they are more experienced, more mature, and they know exactly what to say at what time. Unlike Donald Trump, who is just a newcomer in this club of politicians. Regardless of what blunders Mr. Trump made during his campaign during the last 1 year, I mean, the Americans should not forget that they have already experienced Obama, and now they are being offered another Obama in the form of Hillary Clinton. Do the Americans realize that they are going to make a big decision this time around if they send Hillary Clinton back to the Oval Office? Do they know what repercussions this election of Hillary Clinton will cause to the American public and the international community? One has to keep in mind that status quo is something very, very important for people who do not want this world to change. It's very important for the people who do not want to deviate from the divide and rule conception. On the contrary, we all have heard that Donald Trump has been accused of dividing United States, putting neighbor against neighbor, and this and that. On the contrary, it is the reverse. The status quo people, they are actually, they really want to keep this divide and rule conception to go on like that, and they don't want anybody like Donald Trump to cross the domain or do something which is not a conventional method of ruling the people. Regardless of the blunders, as we term them, as we call, on the part of Mr. Donald Trump, talking about the Mexicans and the Muslims, talking about, the woman and this and that, we have to keep in mind that a person who is coming from a different place, a different arena, a different environment, who is not used to the diplomatic phraseology, who is not used to the diplomatic strategies, definitely he's going to speak his mind. If Donald Trump condemns Muslim and you accuse him of hatred against Muslims, this does not mean that Hillary loves the Muslims or the Obama loved the Muslims. It's not always the words which matter, it's the actions which matter. We have not seen any action from Donald Trump as yet, but we have seen actions from the Democratic Party during the last 8 years. So, what you want to do? Would you like to compare the actions versus the words? Okay, then you will see the actions of the Democratic government, the Democratic Party, were very much dangerous as compared to the words of Obama. Oh, sorry, of Donald Trump, I mean. We can still give benefit of doubt to Donald Trump because what he said perhaps is not going to convert them into action. But what we have already seen during the last 8 years, what the Obama administration did, what the Democratic Party did during the last 8 years, they were not words, they were actions. So, if you're really going to compare the actions with words, you have to see the actions as more important than the words uttered by Mr. Donald Trump. As a matter of fact, we have to keep in mind that the party which is ruling the United States for the last 8 years, they are a composition of very mature and very dedicated politicians who know what to say at what time. At the same time, they know what to do at what time. Also, they know how to psychologically prepare the people, or rather convince the people, impress the people, make the people understand exactly what they want to convey, the message. Unlike Mr. Trump, he doesn't bother what the people think about it. He just says what he wants to say. And that's the man who can be termed as a genuine politician in the making. Not the ones already in the White House and already in the ruling elite who have two faces, one for the people and one for their internal discussion, internal strategy making, internal trying to figure out what has to be done the next morning. That's the difference. In my opinion, I know Donald Trump is a bit crazy guy, as you can say, and as one of the American journalists, Mr. Zakaria, also tried to defame Mr. Trump by calling him something, very awkward. This is also a sort of a media war going on against this guy. Why? Because definitely media has a direct link with these people who represent the status quo. And definitely they would not like a person to enter into Oval Office who may start judging people based on his own interpretation, based on his own experience, unlike the politicians who follow a certain checklist, regardless of what is important for the American people or what is important for the whole world. That checklist they want still to remain in existence. They want that checklist to remain invoked. They don't want people like Donald Trump to throw that checklist in the dustbin and start using his own brain. That's the point. They don't want it like that. I'll start with different points about Donald Trump, what he has been saying and what these people have been, using his blunders as a sort of defense for them to beat Donald Trump in the elections, regardless of what may be the results of the election. I'm not going into that. What I'm trying to say is that the comparison between a person who is challenging the status quo, that's Donald Trump, and the group of people represented by Hillary Clinton, she's not alone. She is representing a specific group of people who want to keep the status quo in existence as long as it can be possible. That's what they're doing. They don't want an unconventional person to become the president of the United States. Before going into further details, let me point out something here. Whoever becomes the American president, he is still accountable and answerable to the Congress. An American president, in some way, is unable to change certain policies. For example, no American president would intervene or try to change the policy in Israel. No American president would try to change the policy on North Korea. No American president would ever think of changing any policy towards Russia. And also, nobody would like an American president to change any policy towards the Muslim world. And when we say Muslim world, it's not a one world. Muslim world is already divided into different sects, as you can say. We have a Wahhabi Saudi kingdom, we have a Shia Iran, we have a Shia Syria, Iraq, we have Sunni incursion, we have Yemen, we have certain other groups within the Islamic world who represent different sects of Islam. So, American president is not the one who's going to change the policy officially. He still has to follow what is already written on the desk. Let me tell you something about recent events occurred in Middle East. As you all know, what's really going on in Syria. Mr. Donald Trump a few days ago said, although he called it a sarcasm, that Obama and Hillary Clinton are the co-founders of ISIS. As a matter of fact, he misused the word. He wrongly used the word founded. Rather, he should have used the word facilitated, because it was result of wrong political decisions on the part of Obama administration that ISIS came into existence. And that bad decisions, and in those bad decisions, definitely Hillary Clinton was part of. These bad and wrong decisions facilitated making of a Frankenstein called ISIS. The Americans, they wanted to keep a fearful Frankenstein against the Shiite Iraqi government. And for this purpose, they wanted a local force to come into power in certain regions so that they can be used as a pressure tool to discipline the Iraqi government. Unfortunately, that pressure tool, that Iraqi Taliban, ISIS, they became more arrogant, more dangerous, so much so that they really wanted the whole country, they really wanted to become owners of the land, rulers of the land. They wanted to dominate the entire region. And so this strategy of the Americans backfired. So what Mr. Trump was trying to point out was exactly what I've just said. But he could not explain it properly, and he used the wrong word, founded. He shouldn't have used that. That's the problem. That's the blunder he always makes. He should have used the word facilitated, because it was the American policy which facilitated the making of ISIS in that region. And now they have become Frankenstein, and they're just becoming a really nuisance for the whole world, as a matter of fact. Now, coming back to another point, as we were just talking about the elections in the United States, I do not give any positive marks to Hillary Clinton for several reasons. The foremost reason is that, as Mr. Donald Trump has said, that she is unfit for the job. But he could not explain why. That's the point. He said the right thing, but he couldn't prove it. Hillary Clinton is not fit for the job for so many reasons. First of all, she is wife of an ex-president, a person who ruled this country for 8 years. How we can assume that she is going to have an independent opinion, she is going to have an independent strategy, she is going to have an independent approach. How come we are going to believe that she is going to have an independent thinking about the Muslims, about the world, about the politics, about the foreign policy, even about the people inside the United States? How can we expect? Or do you think that she's going to think totally different from Bill Clinton? Or do you think she's going to think totally different from Obama? That's the point. We have already seen last 8 years, we have seen the actions, not the words. So, if you are unable to differentiate between actions and words, that means you are unable to differentiate between Hillary Clinton and Trump. Because on one side, one contestant is the person who has directly or indirectly been involved in decision-making process for the last 8 years. And on this other side, we have Donald Trump, who is only talking. He has not acted as yet. And because of his careless use of words, we are accusing him of being reckless. Wow. We have declared him as reckless so fast. But what about Hillary Clinton, who has been in the office, who has been directly or indirectly involved in the decision-making process? Don't we know what recklessness this Obama administration has shown during the last 8 years in different issues, on different issues? I don't want to go into details. Let the journalists dig out those reckless decisions, and then they can reach to a conclusion that the actions matter more than the words. And these are the words from an unconventional politician, not from a seasoned politician like Bill Clinton or Obama. They know how to mince words, they know how to and what to convey. Unlike Donald Trump, who is still a guy coming from his business place, talking exactly what he feels, talking exactly what he thinks. Is it not something extraordinary that a person who has come from no political background, he has been able to unite people, and he has been nominated as a presidential candidate of the Republican Party? Is it not itself a great miracle? Is it not itself a proof that the American people do want to change? But right now, Mr. Donald Trump is confronting an engineered, a manipulated strategy to put him in a state of denial, in a state of, a chaos. These people are creating a chaotic atmosphere through media, through those damn open letters, And I think this is what Mr. Donald Trump is not prepared right now. Another observation which I made, that Mr. Donald Trump himself is a good guy apparently, but he doesn't seem to have a good advisory team. He needs some real people who could advise him properly on different issues, who should write something better, who should write to put people in some psychological state of mind to understand the difference between Trump and the status quo mafia. I think yesterday I was watching the CNN Aaron Bernard's program in which she had invited some counsel of Trump. I think that guy was not even able to express properly. And these people were just trying to defend the recent blunder on the part of Hillary Clinton, the Clinton Foundation of soliciting funds from a Lebanese billionaire. One important point these people have forgotten, that solicitation is itself an illegal act, regardless of what the person who has been contacted for funding, regardless of what he has to decide or what he has decided or what he has responded. That has nothing to do with it. Solicitation itself is illegal. That's the point. The email which has been surfaced connected with Clinton Foundation and certain officers were motivated or, requested to contact the Lebanese billionaire for funding in Clinton Foundation. That's the point. That's the solicitation. Forget about what the man said or didn't say. Solicitation is itself illegal, In our commercial contracts, we always sign a non-solicitation statements, non-circumvention, non-disclosure statements. In non-solicitation statement, we declare that we have in no way solicited the other party for any particular fund or, for any certain performance. Here, that's the real point here, that Clinton Foundation, they solicited. And that's what the American media, particularly CNN, is not focusing on. Forget about what the Lebanese said, yes or no, or anything. That's not relevant here. What relevant here is why the Clinton Foundation attempted to solicit donation and used certain influential people in the American administration to help them do that. That's the point. Solicitation is itself illegal. But in the Trump camp, there's no way to prove this point. And they're just trying to make a normal defense and this and that. Mind it, these media people, they are very, very cunning and clever, and they know how to depress you during a certain interview or certain debate on in camera, because the people from the Trump campaign, I can figure out that they are not very experienced and they are a little too inexperienced to face and confront the media people. And for that reason, I would always say that Trump has been lacking such people. He needed really good people to represent him, who should know the political prudence, who should know the economics, who should know Israel exactly what's really going on, and they should know the interests of the media and what the media wants and how to confront them. So far, Mr. Trump has not been able to cope with the situation. I don't want to go into further details regarding what Mr. Trump made the blunders. But let me tell you something. Whatever he said, it's all correct. But the way he presented, the way he said it, that's the wrong way. He talked about Muslims. He was not wrong. We all know. In my book, I've already mentioned about, I've written a chapter, Modern Fascism versus Islamic Fascism. We do know that if a Muslim, if he really turns back to his religion in its true perspective, the end result is he becomes radical. He becomes radical. Because if you go deep into the religion, you become more arrogant. you become more dedicated to your religion, and this results in becoming more radicalized. And that's what happens. The Muslims who are considered as very peaceful, as very much integrated into the modern society, the Western society, these are the people who live like the Westerners. They don't have the educational background in terms of religion, and so regardless of their names, Muhammad, Ahmad, Qurayshi, Hashmi, etc., their actions are like the same Westerners, so they are not a threat at all, and that's obvious. Unlike a person who tries to go more closer to the religious teachings, who goes more closer to Islam, the result is he becomes radicalized because that's the internal, what you say, result or conclusion to become radicalized if you go inside Islam in its true perspective. I would not say that becoming a religious person makes you radicalized. What I would say is that if you go more closer to your religion, I'm talking about Islam, there is more potentiality of becoming radicalized, and that's the problem. And that's what Mr. Trump wanted to emphasize, that he wants to stop such Muslims to enter the United States, but he couldn't explain it properly. And the experienced people on the part of Democratic Party, they used this blunder and they just made it a sort of evidence against Mr. Trump. That look, this guy is against all the Muslims. How is it possible? Then Mr. Obama made another blunder by talking about the Mexicans and building a wall and this and that. These people did not argue or oppose the building of wall by the Israelis back in Israel to obstruct the Palestinians. But these people are against Mr. Trump, who is talking about building a wall to obstruct the Mexicans passing in the United States. These are the double standards. These people from the Democratic Party, they have made different walls in this world. They have built different walls in this world. They know where to build a wall which is advantageous to their policies. If today they want to build a wall, they will do it. They have already built several walls in the world. Before they had built a wall against the Iranians. What happened? At the end of the day, they signed a pact with the Iranians, gave them back millions of dollars. They dismantled the wall themselves. This Obama administration, they built a wall recently against the Saudis by signing the pact with Iran. And now they want to dismantle this wall themselves by allowing Saudi kingdom to take more, to participate more in the Iraqi politics. And they're just trying to open doors and dismantle that particular wall. These Americans developed, they built wall for people of Palestine. As Jimmy Carter said, it's not a fence, it's a wall. So, don't talk about what Donald Trump made the blunders. Because this guy does not come with a calculated or engineered agenda. He talks what he thinks. Unlike Hillary Clinton, oh my god, these people know what to say the next morning. They do a lot of calculations and they know how to manipulate words to impress, to psychologically convey a certain message to the listener, unlike Donald Trump, who doesn't bother. And that's what is becoming disadvantageous for Mr. Trump right now. I would like to suggest for Mr. Trump to be careful, because as the elections come closer, any more blunders will put you in a great state of disadvantage, because on the other side we have people who are daily working effortlessly, calculatively, in a manner to psychologically convince people that status quo is the only remedy. So, Mr. Trump, you have a bigger challenge right now to break this wall of status quo. And you can't just do that by what you're doing right now. You have to be more clever. You have to be more politically prudent. You have to be more calculative. You should know what to answer at what time. You should not allow these media people to deviate your message to a wrong destination. They can prove black as white and they can prove white as black. This is what a media can do. So I have this personal opinion for Mr. Donald Trump that he should have a look at his team, what defense they have made for him, and what exactly they want to project, how they want to project Donald Trump as a savior, as a person who is really going to make America great again, as a person who is an unconventional politician who wants to cross the domain of the status quo. If they are unable to do that, it is quite possible, potentially, it may be possible that the American people may once again fall in the same trap of the status quo represented by Obama and people like Clinton's. I don't understand why they don't even comprehend the glaring discrepancies, the glaring faults, the glaring mistakes made by Hillary Clinton. I just don't understand this emails issue, this Benghazi, and all these things. I don't know why the American people do not consider them as the potential reasons to disqualify Hillary Clinton from even contesting the elections. I don't know why Donald Trump has not been able to use, I should say, these blunders on the part of Hillary Clinton to project her as an incompetent president. So far, I think Donald Trump has not been able to put his case against Clinton properly. And that's the reason why she is still in the race. And I think some of the recent polls are showing a different story. I think she is going to dominate Trump, and she's leading right now with 5 to 10 points just because of her calculative manipulation. That's what she and her party is expert. They're expert in all these things. They know how to defend the status quo, unlike Mr. Trump, who doesn't have a sound political advisory team with him to tell him what to say, what time, and how to confront these people. That's the point. I would suggest that Mr. Donald Trump should immediately look into the people who are advising him. You have to go for certain revolutionary measures to confront Hillary Clinton. Otherwise, this is not your election, my friend. If you really want to beat Hillary Clinton, you have to be a politically prudent guy, not somebody who says something today and tomorrow he backs out. You did not need to say that it was all sarcasm. You should have said it, yes, that's the truth, but I used the wrong word, found it. I should have used the word facilitated, that's all. You're not supposed to apologize for something. That's the reality. But if you don't present the reality properly, the reality will cease to be accepted as reality. And that's what Mr. Donald Trump made a mistake a few days ago. He could not put the fact in the right way. And so it was backfired. So much so the media people are insisting that Mr. Donald Trump should apologize as to why he said that Obama and Hillary Clinton founded the ISIS. He was not wrong, but he used the wrong word. He should have said facilitated, and that's the only point. He doesn't need to apologize at all. And there's so many other things like that as well. So I would still look forward to see if Mr. Donald Trump is able to improvise his strategy to confront Hillary Clinton by the time September comes when they're going to have a face-off, Because this election is not just the voting. Psychological will play a greater part. Right now, the Democratic Party, they have embarked on a psychological warfare against the Trump. They are more focused on changing the minds of the people through a psychological attack by telling them, hey, this guy is not for you, so be careful. That's the point. And Mr. Trump, you have to prove to the people, hey, these people have been ruling you for the last several years, 8 years. What did they give you? Nothing. That's the point for Mr. Trump. So this is my analysis that this election of United States 2016 is really very important for the whole world. United Kingdom is no longer part of European Union. Turkey and Russians have become friends again, for whatever reasons. Putin and Theresa May, they have talked on phone. Potentially there is a possibility of another bloc. England plus Russia plus Turkey to come from the European Union. So the American status quo politicians like Clinton, they want to keep the status quo going on, and they don't want people like Donald Trump to enter Oval Office, because this guy is an unconventional president, a potentially unconventional president, and he would do things what he thinks is good, not what is written on the checklist. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.